and welcome to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. My name is Jesse, and I'll be your host. So on today's episode, we're heading over to Europe, and we're having, that's right, a goddamn Eurotrip, everybody. Today on our episode, we're going to be covering a little movie from 2004 called Eurotrip. And so this will be celebrating its 20th anniversary next month. So I thought I would do this in advance. Why not? So my history with this film is this was definitely something that, I mean, really was made for like my demographic of people, right? In 2004, I believe I was 12 years old. Not that I could have seen this or anything, but this was targeted to like horny, straight teen boys. And so, which I was none of those things. But that's what it was targeted to. But I remember, for whatever reason, and again on the show we've talked about maybe watching things that were not appropriate for me at the time, but that's okay, it's fine. And this was definitely one of them. And we even talked about it like on the Hot Chick, for example, when I covered that with horror queers. This movie, like Eurotrip, horror, Hot Chick, Sorority Boys, all these kinds of movies, like I've seen them, and a lot of them just don't work. There's only so many, like, I think the comedies of the 2000s that work, I think, have something going for them, you know what I mean? So this one in particular, I definitely saw it as a kid, and I've watched it a couple different times. It does have it has a certain place in my heart, just because I watched it when I was young, but I mean, overall, really, I mean, the movie itself is not the best movie in the world. However, I mean, if anything, just the history of the film and like how it came to be, it was kind of weird but interesting nonetheless. And the fact that they did shoot this in literal the Czech Republic and also in Germany technically, I think that's really fascinating too, because I'm just like, wow, okay. But yeah, I think this movie has like fun little chuckles throughout it, you know what I mean? But it's very surface. It's very much like, there's not much going on, and like everything is very stereotypical, very of its time. This was in 2004, so really this was shot in 2003, I believe. So anyway, but as we normally do on the show, we're going to go into some facts and figures of the movie, talk about like the production history and anything I could find about that. We'll also do a little bit of a plot summary, breakdown. I don't think we have to break down our characters too much, but if anything, we'll do that. And then we'll talk and have a fun little conversation about this. How about that? So, with Eurotrip in particular, so this movie was released February 20th of 2004. So this is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. Has a runtime of about 92 minutes. So it at least gets in and gets out, which is nice. This is also a DreamWorks picture. So this was technically released by DreamWorks. So this is a co-production, of course, with the Montecero Picture Company, I believe, or whatever the fuck that place was called. But DreamWorks, was like it was distributed by them pretty much. So that's interesting because it's just that Steven Spielberg, what was it? Whoever that guy Katzenberg was, whoever started like DreamWorks was just like, yeah, let's make this fucking movie. But they had already done like other like kind of silly movies like this before anyway. So, it wasn't too far off, by this point. And this does have the producers, which all, from Old School with Will Ferrell and Road Trip with Tom Green and all that. So it all kind of lives in the similar neighborhood, if you will. And we're looking at a $25 million budget. So then, in this film, So it opened at number 5 with about $6,711,384 for opening, gross. And then it went on to make about $17,771,387. So domestically, internationally, it made about $4,833,766 for a grand total of $22,605,153. So needless to say, this movie did a bomb pretty badly. So, and of course, critics, I don't think, really loved it too much. We're looking at about 2.9 out of 5 on Letterboxd, with a lot of people giving it like a 3, maybe. Like, it was a lot of what I saw. And then looking at 47% on Rotten Tomatoes, with about 120 reviews, and then a 75% on the audience score from about 250,000 plus reviews. So I think this was not liked by critics, obviously, or middling, if anything. But I think there are folks who do have a nostalgia for this movie. And like I said, I'm not going to lie, I also do too, in a way. Like I said, there's some stuff in here that is funny, that I'm like, oh, this is like silly, dumb, whatever. But then it just gets to be, it just doesn't, it doesn't land all the time. But it is what it is. So in this movie, we have one credited director who is, Jeff Schaffer, but this is also actually directed by his friends Alec, Berg, and David Mandel, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, they're mostly known. So this is like his only movie he directed, pretty much. But his friends, the writers, him and his two friends, they actually wrote The Cat in the Hat movie with Mike Myers as the titular cat, and then also Bruno with Sacha Baron Cohen, which was kind of like a follow-up to Borat. So there was that. And then let's see, on some of our crew, I'm gonna find some information. So James L. Venable was the composer of this movie. He has done, I think he did something else before that I'm not remembering well, but he did Scary Movie 3, 4, and 5, so he composed all of those movies. He also did Clerks 2 as well. But that name sounds familiar, so I feel like he's done some other stuff. The cinematographer, director of photography, is David Egby, and the only thing I have in my notes is Scooby-Doo. Yes, he is the guy who shot Scooby-Doo, so I thought that was very fun. But he also did other things as well, but, Scooby-Doo is his magnum opus, if anything. Don't worry, I do want to do it on the show at some point. We're gonna find some time. Anyway, then we have Roger Bondelli, who he was the editor. He did George of the Jungle with Brendan Fraser, Ever After with Drew Barrymore. He also edited that, and also It Takes Two with Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. So he also edited those, which is kind of fun. So those are like our main crew members. Let us see though. Let's go to our Letterboxd real quick, and we're gonna look and see if there's anybody else of note that are in the crew or anything that we're going to look for. So hold on just a minute. All right, let's see. Let's look at some of the producers. Let's see what they did. So some of the producers, for example, Tom Karnowski. What the hell did he do? So he did this movie. What else did he do? He did I don't know what the hell these movies are. So not really sure. David Minkowski, I guess. Oh, so he's kind of done. So he's did Snowpiercer. He did Poor Things. Spider-Man: Far From Home. All right, cool. All right, so that's one of the guys. He's a producer. And yeah, they had assistant directors and everything like that. Because, like I said, there were, I think, 3 of these directors, and then I'm sure there was assistant directors as well. But yeah, that's kind of fun. Let's see who else is in here. There was at least one woman on the producing of this movie, which it shows. Or Daniel Goldberg, he did The Hangover, all the Hangovers, all 3 parts of them. He did Old School, and he also did Space Jam as well. So of course they're going to be like, hey, remember what we did? And like David Mandel, he did, oh yeah, no, like he's one of his friends. Never mind. Let's see. Who are some of the executive producers? Ivan Reitman. Oh, he's that guy. He just actually died recently. Oh, okay. Got it. He's the guy who did like Meatballs and Stripes and Ghostbusters. So he is an executive producer on this movie. So that makes complete sense to me. Oh yeah, totally. Let's see. Is there anybody else fun? Ooh, production designer. Let's see what he did. So Alan Starsky, who is the production designer. God damn, he did Schindler's List, and he also did The Pianist. Huh. Isn't that interesting? Huh. Interesting. All right, let's see what else there is. Let's see what else. All right. Oh, because we will get into it, but yeah, like I said, this is all done in the Czech Republic and Germany, technically. So these people did not go to Paris. These people did not go to Amsterdam. These are all visual effects. Let's see who did the visual effects. Wait a minute. So the guy who did visual effects, there's three of them. There's Chris DiConti, Kevin Blank, and then Jonathan Spencer Levy. Also, I hope you'll appreciate this. In visual effects on Letterboxd, when you look, it just has a picture of a dinosaur, which I appreciate. Anyway, Chris DiConti, he actually did Final Destination 3. He did Avatar. He also did Talladega Nights, and also Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So he did visual effects on those. Oh, Kevin Blank, he did visual effects artist for Cloverfield and this movie. And then Jonathan Spencer Levy, he only did this movie. So if anything, Chris DiConti is, he is stepping his pussy up, if anything. Although he doesn't really seem to have any like more recent credits, but still. He put in some work, god damn it. Let's see. There were some stunts here. Who are some of these stunt people? Anybody fun? Oh, Pat Romano. He was a stunt coordinator. Oh, he was the stunt coordinator on Clueless and back to Nope, Jurassic Park, 13 going on 30. Oh, okay. So he was kind of on here for stunts and all that, because I'm sure they had to do a few of those. Yeah, James L. Vanderbilt, what else did he do? Zack and Miri Make a Porno, he did that one. Oh, he also did Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo. That checks out. That all checks out, actually. Anyway, so, let's see. What else is there? What else? Alright, no fun costume designers or anything like that. Oh, except for one of the costume designers is Julia Caston. She did this movie. She also did both the Bad Moms movies. Don't really know anything about those. Oh, and she did the Slapper She's French movie, which I still have no idea what the hell that is. But, okay, I'll go with it. Anyway, so that's our crew that we're going to talk about. And then our cast consists of... well, I will say this, is that I don't think anybody's gone on to do anything like crazy big, so we'll talk real quick. So we have what the hell is his name? Oh my goodness. Scott Mechlowicz, which apparently they had a hard time finding Scotty, and he was actually he was a student in, I believe, UCLA or something like that, and they ended up finding him, and this was kind of his debut, really. He did this in Mean Creek, which is a movie. It was a little indie movie that they did. So yeah, I've never really seen Mean Creek, actually. The only thing I know about Mean Creek is that Josh Peck is in that, and that was right around the time where he was like coming off of doing Drake and Josh, or he was still doing it or something like that. And Rory Culkin's in that, but yeah, anyway. So, but that's what Scott did, and he's also named Scott in the movie, which is kind of fun. Jacob Pitts, who is Cooper, he literally did this movie, and he also did he has a small part in Across the Universe, but he didn't really do much in terms of a whole lot of other like notable things. He was on like TV shows a couple of times, but that's really it. Travis Wester, who he did this film. Again, didn't really do a whole lot of films like that, but he's also like on TV stuff. I am currently trying to watch Scrubs. That's a lot to take on, but I am in the middle of trying to watch it, and he was actually just on an episode in the first season, which is kind of fun. And then, of course, the one, the only, we got to talk about Miss Michelle Trachtenberg. I mean, come on now. Like, I love Michelle Trachtenberg. You will definitely be hearing later this year on a Harriet the Spy episode. I already have that planned. So I love her for that. But also, like, Ice Princess from Disney. One of my favorite Greg Araki movie, Mysterious Skin, and she's fantastic in that movie. And also like Black Xmas and all this. And I really do love Michelle Trachtenberg. I think she's a great actress. And of course she was on Buffy, so that's how a lot of people would know her as well. But God, I love her. Anyway, so she plays Jenny. And then some other random people in here. So you have Vinnie Jones, who plays like what he credited as Mad Maynard, who's like the asshole like footballer guy. So he's from like She's the Man and like Axeman the Last Stand. A couple different things. He was actually an actual British footballer, like a soccer player, and then he became an actor. So I thought that was kind of fun. Kristen Crook is in this movie as Fiona, who breaks up with Scotty in the beginning of the movie. She is from Smallville, mostly. Most people would know her from. So there's that. And yeah, there's like you have Mika, played by Jessica Bors, who is actually a German singer and actress. She made her a debut in this movie, but she actually was also like a singer, kind of, which is sort of cool, in Germany, which I thought was really fun. So yeah, and then you have some random ass like so not cameos, but it's just like smaller parts that are, so like Fred Armisen plays like the creepy Italian guy. Of course he's from SNL in Portlandia. JP Minot, he is actually he's more of a voiceover artist kind of now, but he's done all sorts of stuff, a fun little thing with him, he is actually the voice, not of David Spade's Cusco in The Emperor's New Groove, but when they did like The Emperor's New School and like some of the video games of The Emperor's New Groove, he's actually the voice of Cusco on some of the offshoot stuff. So that's kind of fun. But he's had like an interesting little storied career. So yeah, he plays the robot guy in quote France. Anyway, so then you have like Lucy Lawless, Xena, warrior princess herself, playing Madame van der Six, and then Diedrich Bader plays the mugger in Amsterdam. Of course, he's from like Drew Carey. He's from like Napoleon Dynamite, all that stuff. I got a Napoleon Dynamite episode maybe coming up too, so be on the lookout for that. We'll talk a little bit about Matt Damon's weird little cameo in this movie, but he is in this movie as his name's Donnie in the movie, but he is the lead singer of this band at this party in the beginning. And what else is there? Who else? Oh, and then you have some fun people who are like uncredited or their stuff got cut. So, for example, Joanna Lumley, who anybody who may know, but if you don't know, she is Patsy Stone from Absolutely Fabulous. She plays a hostel clerk who her scenes got cut out of the movie. But you also have like Jeffrey Tambor plays Scott's dad. He's like, it's a small part in all this in here. And then also the old woman in the confessional at the end, like at the church, that's Mindy Sterling, which is fun because, she's Iris from Drop Dead Gorgeous and all of that. So we love that for her. But yeah, no, that's our cast and our crew that we're going to talk about. It's always fun, dandy. So yeah, talking a little bit about how this movie came to be, though. So we got to talk a little bit about that. So for Eurotrip in particular, it's not like there's some gigantic, story of how this came to be. I really think we got to talk a little bit about Jeff Schaffer as like a person, I guess. So Jeff Schaffer, he ended up after he was in Ohio, so he ended up he was raised in Ohio, and so after going to high school there and graduating, he ended up going to Harvard College, which is Harvard University, where he was a part of the humor publication, the Harvard Lampoon. Now, if you know anything about anything, you may know that the Harvard Lampoon is kind of the offshoot, or it's the beginning of what would end up becoming National Lampoon, because the people who made National Lampoon are from the Harvard Lampoon, if you didn't already know that. So yeah, that's kind of fun. And some of the notable members of this are all sorts of different people, but some of the, I guess, most well-known ones, let me look, like Fred Gwynn, who plays in the Munsters. He was in Pet Sematary. He was there. William Randolph Hearst, which, if you don't know, Patty Hearst, that's like his granddaughter or something like that. Let me look real quick. Hold on. Yeah, Patty. Oh, Patricia. Oh, that was the thing with that too. Oh no, that's the old one. Never mind. Sorry. The older one. Yeah. So anyway, but he was a part of it. Colin Jost from Weekend Update, he was also part of that. A little man by the name of Conan O'Brien was also on the Harvard Lampoon. Yeah, a couple different people who are part of this, but it's a humor magazine, and that's literally where National Lampoon came out of, pretty much. So all of those movies that have to do with National Lampoon and all that kind of stuff, that's because there were graduates of the Lampoon that happened. Anyway, so yeah, Jeff Schaffer, he was a part of that with his buddies, Alex Berg and David Mandel. So after college, they actually wrote a couple of episodes of Seinfeld, and he actually also executive produced during their 9th season of Seinfeld, and he was doing all that. He also directed things for Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David, a couple different things, but this is him being a part of and also being the credited director of Eurotrip. So really, I don't think there was much in terms of a story that they were like, we're trying to say something. This really was just because like teen sex comedies showed that they could make money, so they thought, why not try our best at that? Let's do it. So yeah. As I stated already, so they wrote this, and you could tell that they're not like seasoned screenplay writers, because the writing's kind of weak, honestly. But all of the scenes in here were shot in Prague, Czech Republic. Like I said, there's also there's at least a little bit of this going on with a lot of it was done in the Czech Republic. There is on the credits saying that they did do something in Germany. I just don't know what they did there. But yes, that's why, of course, they're saying that they're in Amsterdam, like actual Germany, and, all this stuff like Paris. But they're actually all just at the Czech Republic, and this is all just being green screened into there to make it look like that. So yeah, yeah, like, it's so crazy, like, the stuff that's set in, like, Ohio was done at the International School of Prague, and, like, the scenes where the main characters are boarding the Paris Railway are done in the Prague's main railway station. The scene inside Vatican City was actually done at the Prague's National Museum. Yeah, so crazy. But I will say this. So one of the big things, and I'm sorry I didn't mention it already, but the thing that I think this movie has going for it is the illustrious and just really legacy that is Scotty Doesn't Know. So in the beginning of the movie, Scotty is broken up with his girlfriend, or broken up by her, and so he goes to this party, and it happens to be that this song is played, pretty much saying that he's been cheated on by his girlfriend with this guy, but it's like really catchy and really good, right? So yeah, what had happened was with this, so it's just like a bop and a banger. It ended up being recorded by the band Lustra, and it's just gone on to really be a symbol of this movie. Also funny, and that's one of the funny things about it, is that like the song is really fun, but also it's like it follows the characters throughout the movie, which I thought was interesting. Like there's like a techno version of it, and then there's like a ringtone of it. Like I just thought that was like really silly and kind of fun. But anyway, so Matt Damon plays, like I said, Donnie is the lead singer of this band at this party. But the reason that they were able to have Matt Damon, because what had happened was around the time there, well, you got to remember this is 2003, and I don't know. We were kind of going through a time where we had a whole war going on, and also we had SARS outbreak going on as well. So it was kind of hard to just bring people to like the Czech Republic just for funsies to have them in the movie. So of course they had their main cast like be there. But that's probably why, like, for example, like I don't know why Jeffrey Tambor's the dad, but like maybe he was already in the Czech Republic. I don't know. But apparently Matt Damon was actually filming the movie The Brothers Grimm, which I don't know what the hell that is. I don't even know what that movie is, to be honest with you. What the fuck is this? Oh, it's a fantasy adventure film. Oh, it's Terry Gilliam, and it has him, Heath Ledger, and Lena Headey. Oh, that's fun. Okay, well, apparently they were already in Prague, though, doing this. And Matt Damon actually knew Jeff Schaffer and Alec Berg and like David Mandel. They all knew each other from college, because Matt Damon, if you didn't already know, before he dropped out of there, he actually did go to Harvard. So like, he knew them, and he was wearing a wig for Grimm anyway. So he was just like, fuck it, I'll just shave my head, and I'm gonna be this like person. And yeah, and they had to get him in and out real quick too. They literally like, because they did like a night shoot pretty much, and so like, yeah, they did like a night shoot or whatever the hell, and so they literally had to get him in and get him out, really. So yeah, that's so crazy to me, but yeah, it really was just because like Matt Damon just knew these guys anyway, and we're like, hey, yeah, I'll do you a solid, why not? Which is just how that works sometimes. But yeah, I think Scotty doesn't know is like big part of that. Of course, like having these kind of crazy like points of, being in Amsterdam, being at like being on the train like with like Fred Armisen playing the creepy Italian guy, all this kind of stuff kind of goes along with it. But that's as much production history as I really could get. There is an actual whole Entertainment Weekly did something in 2014. They do have like a kind of 10 things you didn't know about 10 things you didn't know about Eurotrip, for example. So they did have that. I'll actually go through it a little bit if you'd like. So this is done by Sandra Gonzalez in February of 2024. Of 2014. What am I saying? But yes. So they actually did so the cast, so like Scott Mechlowicz, Jacob Pitts, Michelle Trachtenberg, Travis Wester, and then the producers all came for a Q&A session when they did this. And so here's the things you didn't already know. So yeah, we already talked about Matt Damon's thing, where they had a lot of trouble casting Scotty. Personally, Scott Mechlowicz doesn't really do it for me. And I don't think he's like the strongest of actors or anything, but it is what it is. But they did like Michelle Trachtenberg because they just thought she was kind of funny, and they did want people who were like, that's what's crazy to me is like, not crazy, but like Michelle Trachtenberg is literally 18 in this movie, which is funny because like in the end credits, like you don't see her actual boobs, but like you see her topless, like jumping up and down. She's like, look at these, I'm 18 years old. And she was also was coming off of, you know, having been like a child actor, really. So this is kind of an interesting thing as well for her to go into. This is right around the same time she also did Mysterious Skin as well. But yeah. Oh, so if you didn't already notice, Scotty's mom is reading a Jackie Collins book called Sinners, and he's also reading the same book on the train. The only reason for that is because that's the only book that they can get cleared by legal. So that is why everyone's reading the same book, Jackie Collins by Sinners. I have no idea what that book's about, but there you go. There was apparently, I don't even want to, not even going to go into it. Apparently there was a scene called the Anne Frank sex scene. Look it up for yourself if you want to. I'm not going through all of this, but apparently that was just too much. So they actually got, instead of that scene, they decided to write the Club Vandersex scene a little differently, once they could not do, apparently, the Anne Frank sex scene. Anyway. But yeah, so... Oh, and also like the actor in the hotel scene where they're in Bratislava. So Miroslav Taborowski, I guess. He's the Dustin Hoffman of the Czech Republic, and he actually really didn't want to do the scene because in his so like the whole joke is that like in Bratislava $1.87 American gets you so much, and so like Scotty tips like this guy who plays Miroslav, who plays this like butler guy or like whatever, and he gives him a nickel or whatever, and so this guy's like a big deal in the Czech Republic, and he didn't want to slap this other guy, but then they had to have a whole conversation with him about like, you know, no, here's like about like American prostitution, here's like about like getting slapped and like quote pimp slapped or whatever. So, you know, but yeah, this guy was very nice though, Miroslav. Loved him. Apparently the original title of this movie was called Ugly Americans, but the studio, DreamWorks, didn't want a movie with the ugly title in it, or like a sarcastic or ironic title, and they really had a fight with them, which is kind of like having a fight with your parents, really. Because, you know, they're going to call it whatever they want it to, and so Eurotrip, but it was going to be Ugly Americans. So yeah. Oh, apparently also the nude beach scene originally had much less nudity in it. And that could also just be really weird too. That whole scene is, if anything, like, I do appreciate there being butts and dongs in this movie. Like, I do. Just the implication of like what is going to happen at the end of that is a little odd, but oh well. Oh god. Anyway, that's just a little weird. But I do appreciate at least not having just a bunch of boobs. You know, we love boobs, of course, but I'm just like, you know, let's have some equal opportunity, right? And apparently the guy who so with the robot fight scene or whatever, the guy who's in like the Barney suit, so there's like a guy who's like in a suit, like not the robot guy, but like there's a guy who's in like a really nice suit or whatever, and he gives Scotty a nickel or whatever. Apparently that's his acting teacher from when he was young, and that's kind of fun. So, you know, why not? That's cute. But that's what Entertainment Weekly said about that. But there is a actual, let's see real quick. Oh my god, wait a minute. So I'm just trying to find it for y'all. There is a whole article that was done about Scotty Doesn't Know. And let me go find it real quick. Don't worry, I got you. There's a literal, it's literally called Oral History, so I'm finding it for you right now. So Uprocks, that's who did it. August of 2018, Mike Ryan wrote it, and he said, don't tell Scotty, but here's an oral history of Scotty Doesn't Know. And there is a whole literal article that you can read about how did Scotty Doesn't Know come to be. I'm not really going to go into all that right now, like, because I don't really need to. But if anything, there you go. Fun. You know. But yeah, it's just so crazy to me, like, you know, that this literal song got its own, like, article. I thought that was very fun. Anyway, so I guess if anything now, so we talked a little bit about just like the production, how it came, you know, the song, all of that. I mean, the if anything, like, there's nothing too crazy to write home about in terms of, like, the reception of this movie. So the critical consensus of this film on, like, Rotten Tomatoes is a trip worth taking if one's hot, not offended by gratuitous nudity and bad taste. So there's that. Stephanie Zacharek from Salon wrote, quote, "The giddy ridiculousness of a road trip is a pleasant surprise. The picture starts out slow and unsteady in its rhythms, but when you begin to wonder if it's ever going to get funny or if it's going to be merely desperate all the way through, it lifts off like a wobbly helicopter and somehow it keeps flying." And then in the New York Times, Elvis Mitchell wrote that, quote, "Almost every girl in the theater with fewer than 10 lines to speak has to take her top off." And in his review for Village Voice, Michael Miller criticized the film for its, quote, "constant anxiety that women might turn out to be men and vice versa." So yeah, not exactly the best in terms of that. Yeah, and it looks like, although not as successful at the box office as Road Trip, which came out in 2000, this did well on home video, and because of that, it turned into a cult classic, as you know. And so, ultra culture blogger Charlie Line, he actually, what did he do? He said, he introduced a screening of this film in 2011 at the Institute of Contemporary Arts, which is in London. And he wrote in 2012 that, quote, "Eurotrip is satire at its most brazenly self-loathing and audaciously entertaining." And also, apparently, Matt Damon has a bunch of people come up to him saying Scotty doesn't know. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, so it's a little bit about that. Now, if we're talking about just like the plot of this movie, basic plot is that Scotty, who is played by Scott Mechlowicz, he's dumped by his girlfriend Fiona, who's played by Kirsten Crook, after his high school graduation. And so him and his friend Cooper, they have this, they go to this party, and we also meet up with these two twins as well. You have Jennifer or Jenny, and then you have Jamie, who's played by Travis Wester, and then Michelle Trachtenberg, respectively. So they're going to Paris for the summer, and they're going to like do a little Euro trip of their own. But anyway, so like the song Scotty Doesn't Know, it goes on at this party. Everyone now knows what happened to Scotty pretty much, and he gets like blitz drunk. And what pretty much happens is that at the end of the night, after they've come home from the party, we find out that Scott had a German class, and he has like this emailing back and forth pen pal going on with a person who he calls Mike, because he doesn't know who it is. Really, he just thinks it's like some guy in Germany, and they become real good friends. So Cooper is all like, "Oh well, you know, yeah, like you are." Like, he'll want to arrange a meeting, and then he'll want to like turn your genitals into wind chimes or whatever. But he's like, no, like he's really cool though. He seems really nice. Blah da da da, right? And so, anyway, so we find that out of like, all right, cool, whatever. So then, the next, what ends up happening is that once he comes home from this, he's dejected, Scotty is, and he gets this email from Mike, and he's all like, "Oh hey, like I'm sorry to hear about your girlfriend breaking up with you. That really sucks. And I thought, you know, I have this thing going on in my life where it's like, you know, I gotta make some big decisions, so I thought maybe I'd come and visit you. Maybe we could arrange a meeting." And then Scotty's all like, "Oh no, gay panic." And so like he's just like, "No, you fucking freak, like you're not gonna like do anything with me, like don't come to the States, don't do anything, blah blah blah, fuck you," right? And so then the next morning, though, after he wakes up all drunk and hungover, you know, his little brother is reading his email and everything, and he's like, "Hey, I can't believe this like chick wanted to come to like the States and like hook up with you or whatever." And Scotty's all like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like, dude, this guy is like Mike is a guy, dude. Like, this is like, no, look, like he sent me a picture of him. This is him, Mike. He's like a geeky German dude, and then this is his hot sister or his hot cousin Jan or whatever." And then the little brother brother's all like, no, that's Jan, the guy. And then this is Mika. Okay. And so what we end up finding out is that actually it's been Mika the whole time. And then, you know, he's pretty much told Mika to fuck off, because he thought Scotty thought they were a guy. Because, God forbid. But, you know, this was 2004. Anyway, so then, you know, Mika's all like, well, fuck you then, I'm going to block you. She did the correct thing. And yeah, that all happened. And then because we need a movie, what ends up happening is that they go and they're deciding, well, I guess we're going to go on a fucking trip of Europe. So they take a job as couriers pretty much. So him and Cooper do. They end up going to, where the hell did they go first? They go first to London. They end up, you know, meeting these hooligans, these Manchester United hooligans, who end up taking them on a little trip to Paris after having a rousing rendition of Morning Train by Sheila Easton. But anyway, or Sheena Easton, sorry. Sheila Easton, whatever. But Sheena Easton. Anyway, so fun times. And so they decide to meet up with the twins in Paris, and they've explained the whole situation of what's going on or whatever. But yeah, so they go all there, and then they're like, all right, well, I guess what we're going to do is we're in Paris right now, where we got to get to Berlin, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to make some fun little stops. We're going to, you know, we got to get to Berlin, but we're going to go to Amsterdam first. We're going to go here, whatever. We're going to do that. One of the things they end up doing when they're still in like the France area, I believe, is they go to this nude beach because they're like, oh, well, once in a lifetime, let's go to a nude beach. We end up finding out that the nude beach that they go to is actually with a bunch of men there, because the women actually don't go to that beach in particular. They go to a completely different beach, and that was actually the beach that they were maybe going to go to before, but then they were like, no, we can't go to that has this like stupid statue there. But then that's the whole joke. And you have this whole like scene where Michelle Trachtenberg, so the guys like drop trow and they run, and they realize it's a bunch of penises, right? So then Michelle Trachtenberg comes around, and she's like in her little like, you know, she's in like her little bucket hat, and she's like in her little oversized like little sweatshirt or whatever. She's like, thanks for waiting, whatever. And so then she takes off her little bucket hat, and he's like, you know, she's just like, as if you could see me, but like, she is shaking out her hair, and she's like taking off and showing off this hot body and everything because Michelle Trachtenberg. And anyway, so then she's like, oh wait, no, I thought this was a nude beach. And then that's where the whole implication of this comes along, where I'm like, wait, what the hell is going to happen at the end of this like running? I think the more so the visual is kind of like the joke, if anything. I don't know how funny that's supposed to be. I guess it's just like the ridiculousness, but yeah, okay. Anyway, what ends up happening, they do get on a train at some point, and that's when the whole Italian creepy guy happens, that whole thing. But they do end up in Amsterdam at some point. When they go to Amsterdam, they separate. So Cooper goes to Club Vandersex, which is ran by Xena Warrior Princess herself. Scotty and Jenny, they go to a little bakery that they think is like a hash bakery. Like they think it's like weed brownies that they're gonna have and like all this stuff. And then Jamie, he just goes to the camera store because we find out that he's obviously the awkward twin and he's like the weird one. So he goes to the like camera store, and he is getting his camera cleaned, but like him and this like hot clerk like pretty much hook up, and he like gets a blowjob, which is cool, but it's like really not believable at all, obviously, of like, yeah, I mean, listen, oral sex is great and everything, but like, are you gonna just like get robbed like that? Oh well, you know, things happen. But yeah, everyone has like a really upsetting night because Cooper, he thinks he's gonna have like this hot, crazy like European sex, but he does not get that. Instead, he just gets like some really freaky, kinky sex that he is not ready for. And there's like a little monkey with symbols and all that kind of stuff. Lucy Lawless is looking flawless. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it fucking does. Anyway, so you have, and I also, it's so stupid, but like the beefy meaty guys who are like there are, one's is named Hans and the other one's named Gruber. That's just like, oh, ha ha ha, silly. So there's that, and then like Jenny and Scotty, they have this kind of placebo effect because they think that they're high at this bakery or whatever, and I do like the one scene. I'd like that scene a little bit, and for the only reason because they're like freaking out or whatever, and Scotty literally like takes his shirt off because he's like burning up. He's just like so hot or whatever, and he like takes his shirt off and he's just like, I watched a gay porn once. I realized that like halfway through, like the girls never came. Like, it's very much like, that's the thing about this movie, is that like, you know, when it comes down to it, there's some stuff in here that is like, it really is funny, right? But then there's some stuff where I'm just like, you have to almost take it as like so ridiculous. Like, it's not based in reality, which is the whole point. But I kind of wish that it kept that tone in a way. Or that's how you have to kind of look at it, of like, that it is just juvenile and that it is just like, it just is. You know what I mean? It's funny to me that like this obviously was made to be like a raunchy sex comedy, and it's funny when you think about it with like the hot chick, right? Because in that episode when I talk about it, that's a PG-13 movie, so technically you could be 13 and gone seen it. But if anything, like, I actually think, I put this and the hot chick kind of on a similar pedestal, to be honest. Like, I really put them at the same kind of level. Like, they get the same kind of rating from me. I don't think. But I would actually probably watch the hot chick over this again, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't. But, like, if I had to choose which one's better, like, the hot chick might be a little itty bit better. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe it's because, like, Anna Faris and Rachel McAdams are there, you know? Michelle Trachtenberg's in here, but she's only used, like, a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, the men in this movie are not none of the characters are that interesting, like, to be perfectly honest with you. Why am I going through the plot right now? Because I can, but like, whatever. But anyway, so what ends up happening is that because Jamie got robbed but getting a blowjob, they don't have any of their money anymore. They don't have their train tickets, their passports, money. What the fuck? So they have to hitchhike to Berlin, and they misunderstand this guy who they think is going to Berlin, but he's actually not going to Berlin, and they end up in Bratislava, which is in the Czech Republic, which is where they shot this whole movie at. Anyway, so they end up pulling their money together, getting $1.87, and they end up using that to like live the lavish life of luxury. And so then they end up going to a nightclub where a techno remix of Scotty Doesn't Know is playing, which is really good. So they drink absinthe. That's a whole fucking thing, but like they get like drunk off their ass or whatever, and like Jenny and her brother end up like kissing each other. Cooper doesn't let them forget that kind of a thing. And yeah, so we end up getting to Germany. We end up getting to Berlin, which is, I don't think, probably Germany at all, probably. But they end up going to Mika's place, like where she lives, but her parents are there, or her dad, I guess, is at least there. And he tells them that, like, hey, like, you know, my daughter was here. She then decided to change her plan. She was going to go to the U.S. She didn't tell me why she changed her plans. And instead now she's going to go on the summer tour group thing, and she's going to go to Rome pretty much. And she's going to go to, like, a summer at sea type of thing. So then what ends up happening is that Scotty's all, like, dejected, and he's just, like, upset because he's like, I came all this way, blah, 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 but I'm going to try and see her. Like, I really love her, right? And so then Jamie ends up selling his camera to be like, hey, here's how we're gonna get to Rome. So then they go to fucking Rome, and then this is where it all just like gets crazy. So like pretty much what happens is that they ring the bell that shows that the Pope has died when the Pope hasn't actually died, and they end up it ends up being that like like Jamie, for example, like uses his knowledge to like show that he's like a tour guide, sort of, kind of, and then he's able to kind of finagle his way into there, or they're able to finagle their way into there that way. So then that ends up happening, and so then like you've got that. You've also got like, you know, like I said, Scotty and Cooper, they like they accidentally set the Pope's hat on fire or whatever the hell. That's a whole thing. I'm sure Catholics love that. And then like Scotty like almost becomes the new Pope in a weird way, but then the Swiss guards realize, which is interesting because I don't remember how long after it was, but I believe that the Pope either had just died and or died not too long after this movie came out, which is kind of weird, but that's a whole thing. But yeah, no, the guards like figure out what's going on and everything, but then they're like, oh, like you're in big trouble, blah blah blah. But then of course Vinnie Jones comes back and he's all like, because he has a hatred of Italians for some reason, so he's like, you know, yeah, like you're not doing that, you know, you dirty Italians, blah blah blah, whatever. And then it's funny because the guy is like, but I'm Swiss, like I'm not even Italian. He's like, well, yeah, those two, whatever. Because of course, like Manchester United's got your back, if anything. So then Scotty gets to finally show his love to Mika, and then what do? They go into the confessional and have dirty sex. And then they decide to, you know, go back to Ohio now. Because they just must have a bunch of money. I mean, I guess they're coming from some kind of like middle class wealth. I don't know, but yeah, no. So Jenny and Cooper, they become an item. They have sex in the airplane bathroom. Jamie actually stays in Europe because as part of the little tour group that he got to be a part of, or he got to lead, Arthur Fromer, who is a real dude, he is like a travel guide person. He like writes travel books and shit like that. He ends up like seeing him and is like, hey, you're actually really good at this, and like you should have a job. And then we end up finding out, and this is like the tacked on ending or whatever. I think this is the studio ending, if anything. That he goes to Oberlin College, which is in Ohio. And we end up finding out that like, so Cooper and Jenny are together and all that stuff. Cooper's about to like go beat up a fucking like robot or something. But we find out that Scotty is like rooming in the dorm, and then Mika is mistaken as Mike and actually is going to college in the States for some reason now. And yeah, and then it ends with there was an absinthe fairy, I guess. Try saying that 5 times fast. And it ends with the little absinthe fairy, I guess, being like, yeah, when does the fairy get laid? You know, it doesn't give, it's not as cool as like the Bender, like, you know, oh yeah, well, I'll just, you know, I'll build my own thing with blackjack and hookers. Actually, you know what? Forget the blackjack. Yeah, whatever. Screw it. You know, so it's a little bit less cool than that. But dude, that's Eurotrip for you. I mean, any sort of like standout moments, again, I don't think we have to break down the characters like at all, because a lot of them are just super surface level. Like Scotty, for example, is very much just like, he's so predictable is kind of his like, that's like his that's the criticism, is that he's like, you know, very predictable. You can kind of set your watch by him, which is why he gets broken up with in the first place. So he kind of wants to but you don't really even get that until the end, where like, you know, sometimes I could be unpredictable, and it's like, but how the fuck are you like showing that throughout the whole movie at all? I don't even think that's really being shown. And like I said, everything else is very one-dimensional, so there's no real point in even trying to like find any depth here, I don't think. Some standout scenes for me, I will say, are like, for example, like gosh, when I think about it, like, obviously Scotty Doesn't Know is just a song, is like really fun. I do like when they are in, let me see. Oh, I like when they're with the Manchester United guys. That's really fun because they're like singing Morning Train and everything. And also like just the way that they're talking to each other on the double-decker bus. Like that's very fun. I would say also just like, I don't even know, like even anytime it has to do with like, anytime they have like the sexual comedy there, I don't think it's like super that funny really, honestly. Like even partly of like some of the stuff when they're in Bratislava, right? Like when they're at the club or whatever, right? Like the song is there and that's really fun. Oh, and there was a guy, Christoph, that was what it was. Jenny meets him when they're on their way to Berlin, and everything like that. And then we find out that he's like just a douche. Pretty much he's already married. Apparently he's bisexual, I guess, too. But like you find out he's already married, and like her kind of dream of like falling in love with a foreign guy is just kind of like broken. And she just like drinks the night away and then ends up making out with her brother. That's a little fucking weird. Anyway, but yeah, so I mean there are some like baseline like, oh, this was sort of funny, or like, you know, there are some things that are kind of fun here, or that you can kind of pull out of, right? But yeah, I do think that overall I do give this movie like a 3, you know. I talked about it in one of my what I watched befores, because I had watched it probably a couple months ago. And like I said, I think for myself at least, this film is something where I do have a level of nostalgia for it because I watched it when I was young, very much like on DVD. So I'm very much a part of that, like, you know, that kind of band of people who watched this when, you know, we were too young to watch it, but I watched it on video by like renting it at Blockbuster or whatever. And to be honest, it is kind of targeted towards a juvenile sense of humor in a way. And I don't ever think that's like a bad thing necessarily. Like, it's not always that. I think the thing with this movie is that it is that kind of humor, and, you know, if you suspend your disbelief enough, obviously, and I must say that I do tend to enjoy this, like, similar thing, you know, I feel a similar way about it with, like, The Hot Chick, for example, you know, like, I don't hate The Hot Chick, nor do I hate Eurotrip or anything, but it's very much a thing of, like, you know, they're fine for what they are, but you don't have to really go any deeper than that, you know, and there's no need to really. And there's something from my childhood. There's something where I watched them when I was young, and that's always like fun and dandy. So, you know, but but yeah, I don't know if I would like own it necessarily. You know what I mean? And also, I unfortunately, when it comes to Eurotrip, it's not like the writing is really any kind of strong, and it's not even like the characters are even that like interesting, honestly. But there is this kind of, you can get something out of just like how over the top and crazy it is. It doesn't even get into like, it doesn't really get into like the fun. It doesn't get into fun camp or anything like that, though, I don't think. But it kind of is like, if you like that kind of humor and you may enjoy that kind of thing, and then it could work for you, or if you have a level of nostalgia. And I think in particular with this film, I think nostalgia really plays on this film, and it really kind of helps it to be this cult classic, I think. If I had to give my not at all expert opinion, but it's but the reason I think this was a cult classic is because it did not do well financially necessarily, and it was a DreamWorks movie, so DreamWorks isn't anything to sneeze at, you know. It's a major studio, and so with this, I think because it ended up doing good, you know, as like on home video and stuff like that. That's why it has this kind of cult legacy. Plus, also having something like Scotty Doesn't Know, which is just very well known now, or even 20 years later is still something where people are like, oh, hey, if you know this, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Would I tell you to watch it or anything like that? I will say at least, like, if you want to give it like a one-time watch, that's totally fine. It has been on Pluto for quite a bit. I watched it on there recently, actually, of this recording. Tonight I did that. But I also watched it a couple months ago as well on Pluto. So it does show up here and there. And it also, actually, funny enough, Actually, I'm lying. So I watched it on Pluto tonight, but I think beforehand, I think it was on Prime when I watched it before. So you can kind of find it on there. I would give it at least, like, watch it once if you've never seen it before. I maybe would not pay for this movie. I would wait until it's streaming somewhere for free, or as part of your subscription or whatever. But that's how I would say, or that's how I would kind of suggest it, if anything. And just know it's very 2004. You know what I mean? And I can also say too, even though there is a fair amount of gay panic, and the whole inciting incident of this movie has to do with this kind of gay panic, they do not use the F slur in this movie a ton. They do refer to things as gay, like once or twice, which I don't really care, but they don't use the F slur, so that was kind of fun, because again, it's not like it's people in the queer community or like other gay people using the F slur, which I probably wouldn't mind really. This would be a bunch of straight people doing it, but they don't do that. But they do they throw the R word around here and there, and it's 2004, y'all. It was a little bit of a different time. But like I said, I think I would watch it once. If you have nostalgia for this movie, fine. Yeah, I think that's a driving force to the legacy of this movie in particular. As that nice British guy, I guess, said before, that he says it's satire, and I can see why people would think that, and I completely, I can get with that too. I can kind of understand that. Because again, we reevaluate stuff all the time, and some stuff that I'm a big proponent of John Waters, and I love a lot of his movies, right? And some of those movies are objectively kind of trashy. They're kind of whatever, but I think those are a little bit more well done than something like this necessarily. But again, everyone can have their own opinions and whatever. It's fine, But yeah, I would say watch it once if you want to. If you don't like it, great, fine. But if this is a favorite of yours, I completely understand why. I completely understand having that level of nostalgia for it and having those kind of good feels to it, and just like how ridiculous it is. But yeah, I can understand that for sure. But yeah, I think that's everything I need to talk about when it comes to Eurotrip at this point. So I think we're gonna close the book on that. All right. We're gonna close the passport on it, if anything. But yeah, so now we're going to do the closing of the show, I guess. So if you'd like to follow the show in social media, you can do so. I'm on Instagram at Cult Cinema Circle, and then on Twitter or X at Cult Cine Circle. You can also follow me on Letterboxd at Jesse, Jesse, Kremp, Kremp, all one word. On there, you'll see the movies that I log, and I might write a little review about it, or like whatever the hell. Doing letterbox things over there. So yeah, and then if you would be so kind as to rate the show, comment, subscribe, whatever. So rate 5 stars on your podcatcher of choice, whether that be Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever. And if you want to leave a 1 to 2 sentence review, you can do so. Tell me if you like the show or whatever you want to say. Really more so if you want to also as well, you can also email me. You can email the show, I guess, at cultcinemacircle@gmail.com if you want to suggest any movies that you want me to cover, or if you want to ever guest on the show, maybe you want to hit me up on there, or if you want to say hi or whatever. I'm down for everything. I'm down for it all. But yeah. And so a little bit about what I am planning to do next week. You will also find that I'm doing quite a bit of anniversaries this year, just because it is a big year for anniversaries. So next week I'm going to be doing a little movie from 1989, and I'm going to do a little something called She's All That. So yeah, if you don't know what this movie's about, pretty much it's about Zach Seiler, played by Freddie Prinze Jr. He places a bet with a friend of his, saying that he can turn the ugliest girl in school into the prom queen, and hilarity and craziness ensues from there. We can get all into it about that on my next episode, but that is what I will be covering next week for its 25th anniversary, which will be super, super fun. But I think that's everything I can think right now. But as always, I thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. And remember, Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty's got to go. All right. Take care. Bye.